She just touched her hair again, and you have no idea what that meant. Maybe you caught it out of the corner of your eye. Maybe you were mid-sentence, focused on what you were saying next, and you almost didn't notice it at all. But it happened. It always happens. And the reason you keep missing it isn't because you weren't paying attention. It's because your attention has been trained to look for the wrong signals entirely. Most men are taught to watch for the obvious. A smile, a laugh, direct eye contact held a beat too long. So when something smaller happens, something quieter, almost involuntary, it slides right past, unread every single time. This is not random. There is a specific moment, a specific gesture, that women make constantly around men they find interesting, and almost no one ever explains what it actually means, or how to tell when it's real. By the end of this video, you are going to see this signal the next time it happens. Not guess at it, see it. And once you do, you will start noticing how often you walked right past it before. You've watched her do it 100 times, maybe 1,000. A hand reaching up, fingers brushing through hair, a slight tilt of the head following it. It happens on dates. It happens in meetings. It happens during a conversation at a party where nothing else seems to be going on at all. For most men, this gesture registers as background noise, something women just do, the way people clear their throats or shift in their seats. It doesn't seem worth analyzing because it seems too small, too automatic, too common to mean anything specific. But here's the question worth sitting with for a moment. If it's truly meaningless, why does it happen so consistently in certain conversations and not in others? That's not a small detail. That's a pattern. And patterns, unlike random habits, are trying to tell you something, even when the person doing them has no idea they're communicating anything at all. It's not that you weren't paying attention. You were paying attention to the wrong thing. Men are conditioned by movies, by locker room conversation, by years of trial and error, to scan for big, unmistakable signals. The lingering glance, the leaned-in posture, the laugh that goes on a half-second longer than the joke deserves. These signals exist and they matter, but they are not where most of the real information lives. Behavioral researchers have observed that the most reliable attraction cues are often the smallest ones, what's sometimes called micro-behavior, meaning a brief, almost unconscious physical action that happens faster than a person can consciously control it. A hair touch falls into exactly that category. It's quick, it's instinctive. And because it's instinctive, it's far harder to fake than a smile. Which means when it's genuine, it's actually more trustworthy than the signals you've been trained to look for. Once you know why you miss it, the next step is learning what it actually looks like when it's real. Not every hair touch means the same thing, and the difference is smaller than you think, but it changes everything. There are, broadly, 3 versions of this gesture, and learning to tell them apart is the difference between reading a woman accurately and just guessing and hoping you're right. The first is what we can call the self-soothing touch. This happens when someone feels mildly anxious or overstimulated. A long, slow stroke through the hair, often paired with looking away or down, sometimes during an awkward silence or after an uncomfortable question. It's comfort-seeking, not attraction. The second is habitual touch, the kind that happens regardless of who she's talking to, often quick and almost mechanical. The same motion repeated whether she's speaking to you, a coworker, or her own reflection in a mirror. This one carries no specific meaning toward you at all. The third is the one most men have never learned to recognize, the engaged touch. This version tends to happen during a pause in conversation, not before she speaks, but right after, almost like a small physical exhale following something that mattered to her. The motion is usually slower than the habitual version, often involves tucking hair behind one ear rather than a full sweep through it, and, this is the detail most explanations skip, it tends to happen while eye contact is either being held or just released, not while she's looking somewhere else entirely. Of course, context always matters here. A single instance doesn't confirm anything by itself. Now, you might be thinking, couldn't this just be a habit she has with everyone? And sometimes, yes, it absolutely could be. But here's the detail that separates habit from signal. Habitual touch shows up identically across every interaction, regardless of who she's with. Engaged touch shows up selectively, more often, more visibly, and with more accompanying eye contact specifically around you, compared to how she behaves with others in the room. That selectivity is the tell. Knowing the type is only half the picture. Context decides which one you're actually looking at. Here's the part that trips up almost every man watching this. The same exact gesture, same hand, same motion, same hair, can mean three completely different things depending on where it happens and what surrounds it. Strip away the context, and you're just guessing with extra confidence. Think back to a conversation that once seemed ordinary, one where you walked away without realizing what had actually just happened. Setting changes meaning. A hair touch during a tense work meeting, surrounded by other people, under fluorescent lighting and professional pressure, is far more likely to be the self-soothing version, her nervous system managing discomfort, nothing more. But the same gesture during a quiet, one-on-one conversation, in a setting with no audience and no performance pressure, shifts the probability significantly toward the engaged version, especially if it appears after she's just shared something slightly personal. Topic matters too. If the gesture appears right after a lighter, surface-level exchange, it likely means very little. If it appears after a moment of genuine disclosure, something a little more vulnerable, a little more real, and her hand goes to her hair almost immediately afterward, that timing is meaningful. It often signals she's aware she just revealed something, and is instinctively soothing the slight exposure of having done so, while still maintaining engagement with you. This is not a coincidence, and it's also not proof on its own. One instance means little. Pattern means everything. The mistake most men make here is treating a single hair touch like a verdict, either dismissing it entirely as nothing, or overreading it as a guaranteed sign of interest. Both extremes miss the actual skill, which is reading the pattern across the whole interaction rather than any one frozen moment. Before we move to the next layer of this, there is one additional piece most explanations completely skip over, and it might be the most important detail in this entire video. Remember what I told you at the start, that there was one signal most men not only miss but actively misread. We are getting close to it now. This is the one detail almost nobody talks about, and it's the difference between hoping and knowing. Everything we've covered so far, the type of touch, the setting, the topic, all of it builds toward a single piece of timing that, once you see it, you won't be able to unsee. It's not the hair touch itself that matters most. It's exactly when it happens relative to eye contact. Here is what almost no one explains. The engaged version of this gesture, the one that genuinely signals interest, occurs within roughly 2 to 3 seconds of sustained eye contact, either just before she breaks it or immediately after she reestablishes it. Not 5 seconds earlier, not well after the moment has passed. Within that specific, narrow window. The reasoning behind this is rooted in how attention and self-awareness interact. When someone maintains eye contact with another person they find genuinely engaging, there's a brief surge of self-consciousness, an awareness of being watched while watching. That surge often triggers a small physical action, almost like the body needs to do something with the heightened attention. The hair touch becomes that release. This means the gesture isn't really about the hair at all. It's about what just happened in her eyes a few seconds earlier. Watch for that sequence specifically. Extended eye contact, then the touch, occurring close enough together that they feel connected rather than coincidental, and you are no longer interpreting an isolated gesture. You're reading a complete behavioral moment. This single piece of timing is what separates men who think they understand female body language from men who actually do. Of course, this still isn't a guarantee. Nothing about human behavior ever is. But combined with everything else we've covered, this is about as close to certainty as this particular signal gets. Once you can see this clearly, the question isn't whether you missed it before. It's what you do next. You don't need to study every gesture from now on. You just need to know what to look for. This isn't about turning every conversation into a surveillance exercise, scanning her every movement for hidden meaning. That approach exhausts you and makes you seem distracted rather than present, which undermines the very connection you're trying to read accurately in the first place. Instead, this becomes something quieter, a kind of awareness that sits in the background of a normal conversation, the same way you'd notice tone of voice or posture without consciously analyzing every word. When you see the pattern, engaged touch, paired with selective behavior toward you specifically, following meaningful eye contact, you don't need to react to it immediately or call attention to what you noticed. You simply carry that information with quiet confidence, letting it inform how relaxed and present you remain in the conversation. That calm is itself attractive, far more than any line or technique could be. What you've gained here isn't a trick. It's clarity. The kind that lets you stop second-guessing every interaction and start actually being present in it. So we've walked through a single gesture, small, easy to miss, often dismissed entirely, and found that underneath it is a layered, consistent signal most men never learn to read correctly in their entire lives. The deeper truth underneath all of this is simple. Women's bodies often communicate before their words do, and the men who learn to notice this aren't manipulating anything. They're simply paying attention to what was always there. You don't need to overanalyze every moment now. You just carry this awareness quietly, and let it inform you rather than control you. Think back to the last time you saw this. Attraction, nerves, or habit? Tell me which one in the comments. I read every comment on this channel because the conversations we have there often shape exactly what we explore next. If this gave you a piece of insight you didn't have an hour ago, subscribing means you won't miss the next one. And there's a reason this particular topic matters. Because there's another signal she gives you. One that looks like silence, but means the exact opposite of what you'd think. That's next.